Now in this video, I'm going to explain why I don't like strong left-hand grips for most recreational golfers out there, because it will create a lot of inconsistencies in your golf swing and a lot of things you have to make up for in the golf swing. But we're also going to explain how to make a strong grip work and function properly. So I'm Jonathan Chown with JChownGolf. Let's dive right into it. So there's two reasons to why I don't like very strong grips for most recreational golfers out there. Now the first one is what you need to do with your left wrist to be able to make that strong left hand work, and that is cupping the lead wrist here. So when we have a strong grip, we know that's generally going to close the club face off a little bit more. So to be able to make sure our club face isn't getting too close in our golf swing, we need to have a very cupped left wrist. Now the more strong we are with that left hand, so let's say 4 knuckles, we need to really cup it quite a lot to keep that club face square, and we need to maintain that in the downswing to keep that club face square. So we just know that we are predisposed to having a very strong club face with a strong grip. That's why we need the cupping to keep it square. But really from there, it's not the club face and what it does to it is why I don't like it. It is actually more of what it encourages the club shaft to do. Now, when we have a lot of cupping in our left wrist, the club shaft is going to be encouraged to stay steep in the downswing because our wrist angle has a direct influence on what the club shaft does. For me, if I, let's say, I'm right here at left arm parallel to the ground in a downswing, let's just play around with my wrist angles and just the wrist angles alone. So with a cupped left wrist, you can see that club is standing up. With a flat left wrist, you can see it's gone a little bit shallower. And then with a bowed left wrist, it's gotten even more shallower. So, like we said, we need it to be cupped for a square club face, but we are more inclined to have that club shaft steepen. And this is what I see with so many golfers with strong left-hand grips. They might match it up great with their left wrist, but they will just be moving so steep. So, that is the first one, because we know if a steep shaft in the downswing, what's going to happen? Our body is not going to rotate, because if it rotates, we're going to cut across the ball. We'll most likely still slice it with a strong grip, but we'll also then flip through the golf ball. And that is the second reason here to why I'm not a massive fan of a stronger left-hand grip. It's because of the range of motion that a strong grip with your left hand gives your left forearm. Now, here's a cool little thing. Let me show you here my range of motion of my left forearm. Strong grip here, all 4 knuckles, just to explain it. Let me rotate my forearm as much as I can this direction. Look how much I can turn my club face over. I can turn it over a lot compared to more of a standard grip where it's 2.5. Let's do the same thing. Can't turn it over near as much. And then with a weaker grip, 1 knuckle, just for extreme sake. Can barely turn that club face at all. So you can imagine if I'm coming down with a cupped left wrist, naturally if I'm not doing anything to counteract, which we'll get into that in a minute, I'm going to stall out my rotation to be able to get that club onto the golf ball without cutting across it massively. But we know then as well what's going to happen. I'm going to have to flip. But if we are flipping through the golf ball, and we have a strong grip, we have got a massive amount more range of motion we can now perform with our left forearm, which means for us we can close down that club face even more. So if my rotation stalls, and it stalls out hard with a strong grip, let's hit one here, very, very strong. Now we're going to see how far left this is going to start in my net, because I can now, if I stall out that rotation, just rotate this so hard. So a steep downswing and big flips and roll releases through the golf ball, we know that's going to lead to a lot of inconsistencies from there. And a lot of it is because of that strong left-hand grip and what happens from it. But of course, we see loads of top players with strong left-hand grips, loads of them. But we've got to understand why that is. As with golf, even though we might see a top player do something and we might say, okay, we need to copy that, we've got to understand why it helps them first. Because if we don't understand it and we just see it through just the pure visual nature of it and thinking that's what's making them great, it's part of it. So let's understand a little bit more on what we've got to do to make a strong left-hand grip work. So like we said, with a strong left-hand grip, first one, steepening the shaft there. So we know we're going to be predisposed to steepen the shaft because of the cupped left wrist. But that's not necessarily that has to happen, because there are more ways to get the club to shallow, so opposite of steep, shallow, than just your wrist angle. You can shallow the club with a cupped left wrist. You can absolutely do it. It's just a little bit tougher to do than other ways, which is why I don't massively prefer it, but it can be, of course, done, because we see top players in the world make it work. But like we said, they're doing stuff to make it work. So at the top of the swing, let's say we've got that cupped left wrist, that very strong grip. Now, I want to do two things here to be able to shallow the club. So I need two shallowing methods to make this work optimally. So my first shallowing method I need to make this work is I really need to have a decent amount of trail shoulder external rotation, where in layman's terms that is just my elbow moving in front of my body, making that shoulder rotate externally. Doing that, we can see how that will influence the club to shallow. Now that's one piece of it, but I've seen many golfers there with a strong left hand grip with their cupped left wrist and have great external trail shoulder rotation and still stay steep. That's where, for me, when I'm working with a player who has a stronger grip, I always will implement two shallowing methods in there. So that's the first one. We do need that trail shoulder, or the trail elbow even, we can say it as moving in front of the body. We need that. But the other one we need the left forearm to start to rotate in that transition move here. So you could be thinking of this movement as the nasty forearm roll that a lot of you probably watch videos about, where you have that rolling move of your left forearm, club head will whip inside the hands, club face will normally open with a standard grip. So that's not necessarily a bad move if we do it starting in the downswing. And the technical term for this is left forearm pronation. Left forearm pronating down, left arm pronation there. So you can almost see with my glove logo, see how it's now going, pointing away to pointing up. So I can still keep that cup in my left wrist and shallow the golf club. I've just got to get the trail elbow in front of me and the left forearm rolling to where the glove logo is pointing up towards the sky. So we can still shallow the golf club there. We've just got to have a little bit more work to be able to do it. So let's talk about a little drill we could do for that. So here we go. Let's do a drill here. So this drill involves a training aid and a tee in your glove, just like this. So training aid, Tour Striker Smart Ball. Any ball training aid will do for this. I just like Tour Striker Smart Balls. And like we said, tee in the glove pointing out in this direction. So let's talk about the Smart Ball first, what that's going to do for us. This is going to train the elbow movement we need. So we've got that strong left hand grip. We're getting up to the top of our swing now. Now what we need to do to be able to make this work, we need to squeeze the ball with our right arm into our left. So we need to squeeze this ball in between our arms. If we have the opposite thing happen and we have, God forbid, the right arm separate, you're going to see how the ball's going to drop here. So that will cause you to really steepen the shaft there. So I want you to, one, squeeze this ball in transition, really squeeze it there. That's going to get the right arm moving in front of you, trail shoulder moving into more external rotation, which will be helping you shallow the golf club with that strong grip. Now, like we said, most often we need two shallowing methods to really help with a very strong left hand grip and cupped left wrist to get the club to pitch how we want to. So second, what we could do there, we could all do this at the same time, which is why I'm doing it all at once, is tee in the glove. So like I said about the glove logo earlier, I said about that pointing up to the sky. That is pretty much what this is, but it's just using a different visual. So I'm going to be using this green tee, and I'm going to want that green tee to point up towards the sky as I'm starting my downswing, getting that left arm pronation, the forearm pronation going down there in the downswing, which will again be shallowing the golf club nicely. So that's what we need to do there. So squeeze this in between my arms and let's get this tee pointing up towards the sky. And that's going to help us massively if we're going to make this strong grip with cupped left wrist work. So you might notice already that I have not yet talked about the rolling and the range of motion you can do with your left forearm. Now, the good thing is when we're doing stuff like this, and we're shallowing the golf club, so for us, we're getting our two shallowing methods in. why this is going to help us with that one as well, with the forearm rotation, because that's going to make it work a little bit more functionally. It's going to really encourage you not to have an excessive amount of forearm roll going through the golf ball, because if our club is shallowing, coming down the downswing, we're going to now have better options with our body to turn and rotate through the golf ball. Because if we're turning efficiently through impact there, we're having very minimal movement of our forearms naturally just going through the golf ball. So our body won't want to do this because it's not stalling out its rotation. So like I said, good drill like this to get the shallowing methods in there. And then you really want to, while you're doing this, turn through that golf ball quite nicely, and then you won't get that club face closing over. Because if your rotation stalls, you're going to hit it miles left. So make sure you keep turning there. So there we go, we can make a strong grip work, absolutely. But as you can see from this, it's a lot of work to make it work. It really is, because you've got to combat this cup left wrist. Because yes, it will square your face, but then you've got to combat what it's going to do to the club shaft. So that's why with this video, and the point of this video, that it is, and I don't prefer it for many golfers or recreational golfers, is because the amount of time it will take to do this if you are battling a steep shaft because of that cupping due to a strong grip. So for someone who can only play golf in, the weekend, maybe squeeze in one practice session in the week, it's going to take a long time for you to get this into your golf swing. You'll be far better off going for a more standard grip and then having a flatter left wrist, because that's going to not have a massively bad influence on your shaft angle. A flat left wrist will keep it a little bit more neutral. So that would be the easier route to go. And I know a lot of golfers are having a strong grip because of trying to get rid of a slice. Now we know club face is only one part of an excessive curvature. It's club face and path, face to path relationships going in there. Really just fixing your grip is not going to 100% fix it. For most slices I see out there, it's more to do with how they're sequencing their body in a downswing, club path issues, then the club face. Look at how your body moves first before you go and change your grip, because if you change your grip, you're changing your swing. So, ultimately there, if you enjoyed this video, you found this video helpful, maybe information that you haven't heard before, because I know there's a lot of videos out there that only just talk about you have to have a strong grip because it gets rid of your slice, but you can see a whole host of other problems can come in there as well. So of course, if you found it helpful, click that like button. If you want more golf instruction just like this, hit the subscribe button and hit the bell button too to be notified every time I put out a video. So if I've got to choose, do I want to put the massive amount of work in to be able to make it work? You might be close to doing it already, so keep at it. But would it be better off for you to go to a standard grip and then have a little bit more options in what you can do with your wrist and what you can do with your club shaft?